Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joseph Noy, and I want to welcome you to today's webinar, Leveraging Technology to Become a World-Class Function, based on the key findings from the NeuGroup's Principles of World-Class Treasury Management Systems project. On behalf of the NeuGroup, I want to thank all of you for joining us. Jeremy Kidd from Cargill, one of our focus group participants. Jeremy is Treasury Transformation Project Lead at Cargill, the Minneapolis-based global food, agricultural, financial, and industrial products and services company. Jeremy's part of a growing Treasury-IT liaison trend that he will touch on later, as well as representing a Treasury project manager role that is a critical success factor for Treasury transformation, where Treasury management systems almost always play a part. He will be joined by John Henson from Citi, the third of our project partners. John is a director with Citi's Treasury Advisory Group, which advises clients on best practices in Treasury and liquidity management. They will speak to the support findings.
So far we've discussed success factors in both selecting the right Treasury technology strategy and the factors involved in implementing it successfully. But once the technology is implemented, the project highlighted some best practices around how to support the solution that's ultimately put in place. In particular, the project highlighted three. The first is that a world-class support model requires dedicated IT support. That support should have a single point of contact with a rapid response capability to help optimize Treasury productivity. The rapid response capability, though, requires regular Treasury interaction with its support resources, and in this environment that can be challenging, as the reality is that IT resources will likely not be Treasury owned. Additionally, the project highlighted that support should leverage a Treasury liaison where possible that can speak both languages. And that's to communicate the Treasury requirements to the solution provider and IT support team, and in turn, communicate the interplay between technology requirements and Treasury. The last of the support principles it includes vendor management and making sure that that vendor relationship is effectively managed. That entails keeping up with newly released functionality, maintaining service level agreements, and identifying functional deficiencies through regular gap analysis reviews. And to make sure you're really maximizing the impact of those reviews, those should be conducted in anticipation of the budget setting cycle. So Jeremy, in light of these principles that we've teased out here, can you share your experience at Cargill?
Yeah, thanks, John. I'm going to spend some time talking about some things that we're doing here as a direct response really to the first two items on there. The statement on here I think will resonate with a lot of people here involved in Treasury, and especially those involved in dealing with Treasury systems. As one of the primary challenges supporting a Treasury environment is to have people who understand both the technology and the business process that technology supports. It's very difficult to support effectively if you have technologists who don't understand the Treasury processes, or if you have Treasury specialists who understand the process but don't necessarily understand the technology. And so the real key to solving that is figuring out a way to bring those two things together. Within the business, we require within Treasury as a niche part of finance some subject matter expertise around our specific processes that we have. Because of the nature of the business that we're supporting in Treasury, the systems that are implemented in that space require a high degree of urgency and very short reaction times and issue resolution times. And without proper support, it puts a significant strain on the business resources, something that my colleagues have touched on already. And it creates operational risk when you don't have proper support. You can't resolve issues, and if you're pulling your people away from the desk to deal with systems issues. Ideally, you might have a dedicated embedded team where your IT resources were in Treasury and you had a Treasury IT department, but the reality is that most Treasury departments don't have that kind of luxury. The organizational barriers that we have is it's just not cost effective to do that in every case. The organization is looking to leverage resources across the enterprise, and IT is one of those resources that's usually managed as a function that's shared across the company, and you start to lose the ability to focus on a particular business area, and there's a push and pull there to provide the subject matter expertise that's required for Treasury. there becomes limited availability when you're trying to resolve issues. You may not have the people that you need. Can create some redundant roles and just not get you the resources and the knowledge required to effectively support Treasury. And tying back to some of the things that had been said before on Eli's slide, talking about the top challenges in systems projects, Treasury resources was often given as the #1 issue, and IT resources fell in third. So of the top 3 items, 2 of the 3 challenges to managing Treasury systems is around management of resources. And so to deal with this at Cargill, we started down a path to create a new organizational construct that we are calling our Treasury Center of Expertise. And the goal of this, very simply, is to bring Treasury and IT together and create a shared group that sits in the middle. Think of it as a virtual team of experts. We're not taking people out of IT and putting them in Treasury, but we're setting up a model that will tap when there's an interface problem with our banks. There's somebody in the interface group who's part of the Center of Expertise and has that knowledge as part of the service that he can provide as a technologist to really be able to help us with the issue, and you're not just putting a ticket into a random support person. We are including not only Treasury IT resources, but Treasury resources as well, so that group will be made up of the analysts in Treasury who truly understand the subject matter, and the technology analysts in Treasury in IT who understand the technology. And we can bring those 2 sides together and have one effective team that resonates as a collective of IT and Treasury and feels very much part of that organization. We're setting this group up to be co-managed by an IT leader and a business leader to really continue to reinforce this. I want to caution about the use of the word support that's sprinkled all over this section, because it's really important to highlight that this group is not just about support as something that happens after. This group is about maintaining the overall health and stability of the environment, managing upgrades, enhancements, new deployments. Tiffany talked about the importance of scalability and being able to change and evolve as new regulations come up. We want to be able to look to the COE where we've got the analysts who can understand what the regulations are bringing and what kind of changes it needs to drive, who are working alongside and on the same team with the technologists who can help us implement those things in the system. We've also worked with our global IT group to set up a structure where the people in the COE have other teams behind them that they can reach out to and leverage. So if we're working on an upgrade or an enhancement that requires development, we don't have to keep a pool of developers on staff in the COE. We have someone who can reach out to that development organization to get the coding done, but that person acts as the liaison who can represent Treasury's needs to those developers and make sure that they can be managed effectively. On the next slide, we've just summarized some of the principles that we have in our Center of Expertise. I've talked about these really already, but the objective of that group is to have a team of experts with a holistic understanding across Treasury and across the technology that supports it. We want them to be in a position to be able to advise and guide and help us make the right decisions, and not just a group of order takers who will fill requests. We want it to be a very proactive group. And as I was just saying, the purpose of the COE is not just to support, but to focus on the needs of Treasury globally and make sure that our systems are healthy and can continue to thrive and be upgraded and maintained and continue to meet the business needs as the business evolves. Looking ahead, where some places that we see the COE taking us as it evolves is a place for people to learn. When new employees come into the business, if they're put in a group like a Center of Expertise where they're managing the systems, touching those systems and seeing how they are enabling the business process is a great place to get a primer on how the business works. We want to set up an environment where we have rotations, where people will come out of an operational role into the COE, and people in the COE will have a chance to move into operational roles and really use it as a bed to get people a more well-rounded knowledge of the Treasury environment. We also want to be able to integrate with support teams, not just within our own organization, but as we all know, with the continued evolution of ASP and software as a service, we need to figure out how to tie the vendor effectively into this model. And with all of the technology that's supporting bank interfaces and SWIFT, we need to figure out how to tie those other external organizations in. And we also want to use this to cross-pollinate between our business and technology resources. If I can fast forward 5 years and see people who are IT professionals now who in 5 years are working on the desk in Treasury, or people in Treasury who are analysts who become leaders in the IT space, I would say that we've been very successful with this model.
I want to take this opportunity to once more thank all our panelists for their time and sharing of insights today, and again to thank all of you for your time and attention this afternoon, and hopefully there were at least a few takeaways to make it worthwhile. I can't imagine that that's not the case, but we thank you for joining us and appreciate any feedback and follow-up. Thanks, everyone.